Hi, Alexis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
Okay, so that's good to hear. So, as you may remember, last week we discussed a little bit about your situation, what you want to do, the things that you've done, the experience that you have. And I'm just going to repeat a couple of things back to you. Just remind me if that's correct, okay? So, we have that you have a bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies. Is that correct? Okay, and I also have here that you would like to be a teacher. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, now, what kind of experience do you have?
I have 8 years of experience as working at an elementary as the secretary to the principal.
Mm-hmm.
And what that mainly deals with is I do a lot of ordering for school materials for teachers. Anytime the principal needs help with any assignment, any task, should it be small or big,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who handles that. So it's a lot of administering school funds um, and being there.
Okay, so from what I hear, you have a lot of administrative experience, sort of, managing, dealing with multiple issues at once, that sort of kind of thing. Now, you mentioned that you want to be a teacher. Have you looked at all into any of the process that you have to complete before being certified to becoming a teacher?
I have looked into, I know that you have to have your bachelor's,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just about all that I know.
Okay, so as far as gaining your certification to becoming a teacher, you would have to do it in a university setting. So luckily for you, you already have your undergraduate, you have your 4 years at a college university or university. So the good thing is that your next step would be to simply prepare for your certification. Um, I think that given your experience, given the fact that you have very good administrative, it seems like you're very organized. That you're very on top of your things. I think that um, it would be at least my suggestion. Have you considered maybe teaching English or something along those lines?
I haven't, but that would be very suiting. I love to read.
Yeah. So I think that that's very good. Um, And I have some, I don't know if you remember, but we did some tests last week, and I have some of the results which might be reflective of that. Would you mind if we go over them at this time?
No, I don't mind.
Okay. So, first we have your Myers Briggs test, which is pretty much a personality test that sort of describes how you react in certain situations, the sort of person that you are, um, in specific scenarios. And the first thing that I would like to go over with you is this idea between being an extrovert and an introvert. So on your test, you scored an 82% being an introvert, meaning that you mentioned that you like to read a lot. Um, I think that that's very good in the sense that you're very self-aware. You're very good at being reflective. You're receptive of other people as well. Um, and also, something else that I think is perfect is the fact that you scored a 52% in your feeling, meaning that you're empathetic, meaning that you're compassionate, you think about others' feelings, and you just don't simply, you're not just thinking logically. Sometimes, you have that ambiguity. Um, so, what do you think about that? Do you think that those traits are fitting for being a teacher, or how do you think that would apply to being a teacher?
I think that's very reflective of me, and I think when it comes to teaching, I feel like the student-teacher relationship is you have to have that understanding of the students and be aware of how they might learn, what style do they learn from, and I would be able to adapt to that person or to several students. Should there be more than one who learn in that specific style? But I think it would be a good career, and I think teaching and the characteristics that I have as far as being an introvert and scoring a 52% on feeling um, would work on my behalf.
Right. And I agree 110% with all of that. And just to sort of piggyback off of that, This test also categorizes you as far as a person that you are, and um, specifically, the test says that you are a guardian by nature. So, of course, it just reinforces what we just talked about as far as being caring and putting in this case your students needs whatever they may require before your own. And on top of that, you also have the symbolic name of a protector, which again is just backing up everything that we just talked about. And I think that it's very fitting for all of this. Moving on to our second test, it's the Myers-Briggs test, but the second version. And the only thing that I would like to point out about this is that you scored a higher score as being intuitive, meaning that as a teacher you might sort of need this to be creative as to how to reach your students, how to do certain things, lesson plans, all those sorts of things. So from your Myers-Briggs test too, you scored a career that would be fitting as a confidant, meaning that you're good, sort of like I mentioned before, in an organized setting, in a place where you can sort of share what you know, which is perfect. Something that I didn't ask you is, would you consider going back to school to achieve your goal of becoming a teacher?
I would definitely consider going back to school for
Okay.
teaching.
Now, would you be willing to teach under like different scenarios? Is there something specific that you want to do?
I'm open to working with any age group, but my first preference would be working with middle school.
Okay. The only reason why I'd ask is because there's sort of different opportunities that you might want to explore, whether it be you teach sort of dual credit class, meaning where you teach your kids something a little bit more advanced so that they can earn college credit. And I think that I would highly suggest you pursuing, a higher degree, maybe not even just going back for your certification, but something as far as your master's degree, so that way you're capable of teaching these things. Is that something that you would maybe consider?
I would, definitely.
You would?
I would.
Okay. Um, okay, now, I know that as far as your disability, you sort of you're in a wheelchair. So do you think that in any way, shape, or form that can become an issue for being a teacher?
No, I feel like I would have the accessibility to get from class to class, to the restroom, anywhere that I would need to be. I do have private transportation, so getting to the school and getting back to wherever I need to be is no issue. Um, and I feel like a school would have no problem with having difficulty with me getting around.
Right. Okay, so that's excellent, and the fact that you mentioned, the private transportation, all that is phenomenal because that's, it's something that's very beneficial. It's something that you can get there on your own and all those sorts of things. Just to remind you, we're going at your pace, so if you feel that maybe you're not ready to go back to school, if you feel like you are ready, then we can do it. This is your decision, this is your process. I am only here to guide you. I'm here to help you with whatever and anything that I can. So before we end, I want to go over another test, which is your Holland's test. And this is just I guess, wrap everything up as far as what we just talked about. So for this one, you get three characteristics, which are your prominent from six different characteristics. So your main and most, and the one that you scored highest on was your social, meaning that you like to work well with others, which is just perfect. It means that you're good at public relations, you're good at talking to people, you're good at listening. So this is just, it reinforces that's pretty much what a teacher needs to do. Secondly, you scored a realistic category, meaning that this is something that you're good, you're meticulous, you're on top of your things, you are you're good at keeping on track and all those sorts of things. And lastly, you scored very high on your conventional scoring, meaning that you're detail oriented, that you're organized, and it's just everything. So I think that the bottom line of these three um, tests that we did is that you're on the right track. But just to remind you one more time, this is at your pace. And yeah, do you have any questions or anything?
I don't. Thank you. So
Okay, then I think we will continue this. We will look into the issues about the schooling, about whether you want to pursue a higher degree, and all that sort of stuff. Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Okay?
Thank you.